Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shamil Haikal bin Shahrul Nizam.
My name is Muhammad Ashraf bin Abdullah.
My name is Ahmad Firdaus bin Masjid.
Let's talk about Saad Al-Dharai.
Enjoy!
Az-Zahrah is one of the secondary sources in Sharia. It combines two words, which is Saad means blocking and Dharai means obtaining a certain end. Thus, the meaning of Saad al-Dharai indicates blocking the means to an expecting end, which is likely to happen if it does not block. In this context, the thing that been blocked is something that lead to evil and not good or benefit to human being. There are four classifications of Saad al-Dharai. First, means that definitely lead to evil. Second, most likely lead to evil and is rarely expected to lead to benefit. Third, means that frequently leads to evil but most in cases will not happen in certainty. Fourth, means that rarely expected to lead to evil and is most likely to lead to benefits.
The utilization by scholars for Saad al-Dharai. First, scholars from school of Malikiyah. Scholars which utilize and apply Saad al-Dharai as an argument and law reasoning are scholars from the sect of Malikiyah. Based on certain argument and reasoning, Saad al-Dharai is an essential basis in deciding jurisprudence law from the sect of Malikiyah. This is because they stand strong with ijtihad, which is jurisdiction on deciding law, which is based on benefit and interest of human being widely. Therefore, few of scholars agree that Saad al-Dharai is an important element in set of Malikiyah. First and foremost, Imam al-Qarafi from the school of Malikiyah. Imam al-Qarafi had utilized and defined Saad al-Dharai according to the following circumstances. First, it is action that is prohibited by ijma. The act that has already become ijma ummah should be prohibited and prevented, such as digging a hole or well on the path of Muslim or on a road. It is action that brings collapse and destruction since it could harm other people as well. For example, putting poison in someone's food and teasing their idols on purpose in fear retaliation by non-Muslim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also be scorned. Second, the act which permissible by ijma. That means the act not being prohibited without any arguments and doubt, even it is a ra'i, such as planting grapes, as which the act is not forbidden. Even if scared or feared, it becomes linked to the process and make of liquor or wine. Third, the act which being disputation. This is act of Zarai that becomes a dispute among scholars, either prevented or otherwise, such as deferred payment or buyu al-ajal. Only scholars of Maliki use this term. Other than that, other mazhab scholars sell with immediate repurchase or buy al-ina. They try to signify from this word means purchasing transaction will lead to transaction or mu'amalah of usury, riba, means a purchasing contract on the surface but lead to the harm toward hidden forbidden matter. This kind of purchasing transaction has plenty of examples, namely buy al-ainah al-salaf, purchase of commodity for deferred delivery in exchange for immediate payment, al-card, credit, and others. Second utilization by scholars is scholars from the school of Hanabila. Other than sect of Malikiyah, Hanabali schools also use Saad al-Dharai as a basic in deciding the law. This is because Ibn al-Qayyim is a supporter of the school which assertedly said Saad al-Dharai is one-fourth from religion. He also discussed with 99 issues and problem regard to the determination of law according to the method of Saad al-Dharai in his book إعلام الموقع and رب للعالمين. Third utilization is from Imam Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i accepts it only in few conditions. There are few scholars agree that Imam Shafi'i used Saad al-Dharai generally. This can be seen by the express of Imam al-Shatibi and Imam al-Qarafi. They elucidated that the rejection from Imam Shafi'i only happens and applies on al-Dharai, which is unclear, still doubtful, and lead to assumption, which lead to haram. But for al-Dharai, which is clear and unquestioned purpose, will lead to haram, and there is no arguments of dispute in this case. They're providing example. For example, Imam Shafi'i together with the majority of scholars about the act of this grace idol, which is haram.
Examples of Saad Al-Dharai. Stopping Al-Dharai that frequently leads to evil and rarely brings about a positive outcome. An example of this would be stopping ihtikar. Ihtikar is the act of hoarding a type of material in order to sell it at a higher price. Doing this limits the amount of material available in the market, therefore inflating. This adds burden to poor people who would not be able to buy the necessities they need in order to survive. During the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab of the Rashidun Caliphate, a penalty was imposed on those convicted of ihtikar. This penalty is implemented to punish and deter people from committing ihtikar and creating economic instability. Next, stopping a person from selling grapes to wineries. This kind of dharai has a high possibility of leading to evil and rarely leads to any good. The grapes sold to the winery has a high possibility of turning to wine, which also has a high possibility of being consumed by another person. Contributing to the production of wine is haram as it leads to evil to the person drinking it, as it has a negative health impact. Lastly, using a credit card to make a purchase on an item which you may not be able to pay the debt off. This type of dharai will almost certainly always lead to evil, but there is no certainty that this will always be the case. The accumulation of debt gathered by the person making purchases using his credit card is bound to give them bad consequences, though there is a small chance that this would not happen. Regardless, that person should immediately stop making any more purchases with their credit card until they have paid off all their debt. Basis of Saad Al-Dharai. ولا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم كذلك زينا لكل أمة عملهم ثم إلى ربهم مرجعهم فينبئهم بما كانوا يعملون. And do not abuse those whom they call upon besides Allah, lest exceeding the limits they should abuse Allah out of ignorance. This verse clearly states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevents all Muslims from cursing the object or idol which is being worshipped by the non-believers of Islam. This is to block the means for them to curse Allah, which is a sinful and a wrong act. Hence, all the steps should be taken to block any kind of wrongdoing or evil that might happen. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقولوا راعنا وقولوا انظرنا واسمعوا وللكافرين عذاب أليم. O ye who believe, say not unto the Prophet, listen to us, but say, look upon us, and be ye a listener, for disbeliever is a severe punishment. The Quran prevents Muslims from using words or sentences that can humiliate and embarrass the Prophet. These are similar to the words that have been used by the Jews to humiliate the Prophet. Hence, they were ordered to block the means of the evil words by using another word that gives a clearer meaning. Abdullah ibn Ammar reported, "The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessing be upon him, said, verily one of the major sins is that man curses his own parent. It was said, O Messenger of Allah, how can a man curse his own parent? The Prophet said, he insults the father of another man, and that man insults his father and his mother. Sahih al-Bukhari 5626, Sahih Muslim 90. The basic concept of Saad Al-Dharai is that if an act can lead to harm, it is automatically haram, even though there was no intention to cause harm.
conclusion, we can conclude that Saad Az-Zahrah is one of the important methods in making hukum, even though there are some scholars that does not agree upon this source. Saad Az-Zahrah emphasized to prevent any way that can lead to evil, which very related to the English idiom, prevention is better than cure, because it is better to keep a bad thing from happening than it is to fix the bad thing once it has happened.